Chúng ta lại quay trở lại với chương trình Master Taste khám phá rượu vang và whisky cùng wine Việt Nam. Hôm nay chúng ta có một cơ hội vô cùng quý giá và vinh dự vì chúng ta sẽ được gặp một trong những bậc thầy danh tiếng nhất của ngành whisky Scotland, ông Billy Walker.
Bậc thầy pha trộn whisky Billy Walker đã cống hiến cho ngành whisky một sự nghiệp đồ sộ từ năm 1972. Ông đã có công hồi sinh nhiều nhà máy chưng cất từng bị lãng quên và thổi hồn vào những dòng whisky đẳng cấp. Năm 2017, ông đã mua lại nhà máy chưng cất Glenallachie và khởi đầu hành trình mới với tất cả tinh hoa tay nghề tuyển chọn thùng gỗ ủ đã qua hơn 50 năm kinh nghiệm. Hãy cùng nghe ông chia sẻ về nghệ thuật tuyển chọn thùng gỗ ủ whisky để hiểu về phong cách của Glenallachie.
Well, it's such a big topic, and it is my opinion that in terms of the complexity of flavour in the final product, that the wood, if you're choosing the right quality of wood, rich wood, well, it represents something like 70% of the actual flavour. And so we also, because when we acquired the Glenallachie, we were in a very strong position. The brand had been kind of operating under the radar, so we were in a very nice position to be able to define the personality of Glenallachie, design the personality of Glenallachie virtually from scratch, and a lot of that was predicated upon we wanted to make Glenallachie a richly sherried style of whisky, and so that kind of determined the direction that we would be going in terms of the wood choices and the wood management. And what has really happened is that we are now so familiar with the contribution from PX and Oloroso casks. And allied to that, we're also using some American virgin oak casks and a small amount of Bordeaux red wine casks. And the understanding is we know exactly the contribution that we're going to get from each of these casks. The Oloroso, which I think is the king of sherry casks, is going to give us rich flavours of dark chocolate, mocha, raisins, currants, certainly a significant contribution of spicy notes like cinnamon, nutmeg, cardamom, orange peel. So there's a wonderful balance playing out in terms of the flavour components that we're getting, that are being contributed to the whisky from the sherry casks. The PX is a little bit different. It's a sweeter style of sherry. And our expectation is that, and we know it's not just our expectation, we see that we can get contribution from PX is dark cherries, orchard fruits, some very complex orchard fruits, of course spices as well. We're getting vanilla, we're getting butterscotch, we're getting honey. And so we know these are all very important layers of flavour contribution. And it's also important to know that the sherry casks are only toasted in the making, so it takes quite a long time for the whisky to interface with the sherry style casks. And we know that we can actually allow them to mature in sherry casks for quite a long time. But in parallel, we use some American virgin oak casks, which have been both toasted and charred. And what we want to get from these casks is absolutely we want to get vanilla, butterscotch, honey. We want to get lots of spice. We want to get cardamom, we want to get nutmeg, we want to get cinnamon, hints of cloves. So that's another layer of flavour contribution. And the red wine casks give us, in many ways, don't contribute an awful lot of flavour, but they give us some tannins being extracted into the spirit. And that gives it lots of body and mouth feel to the final product. The ratio of sherry casks, we probably, in terms of what we're storing, we have a wide range of very interesting casks. But the sherry casks will probably represent about maybe 70% of the inventory that's maturing on site. One of the primary drivers was we wanted to move from conventional fermentation to long fermentation. Conventional fermentation is about 56 hours. We wanted to be operating around about 140 to 160 hours. And that, of course, by the very nature of choosing that particular time, means that we would have to reduce the actual production output. But you know, it was not a problem. We were comfortable with reducing the volume. But more importantly, we wanted to see, it was an adventure. You know, going to long fermentation is a challenge. But what we were trying to achieve was the development of secondary flavors in the fermentation. How did we achieve that? You know, essentially, the conversion of sugars to alcohol, the actual primary purpose of fermentation, finishes about 56 hours, 60 hours. After that, we wanted then to rouse the fermenter, introduce some air, oxygen, and in the process, finally encourage the development of more esters in the wash. These are the things that give you fruity notes, orchard fruit notes, pineapple notes. Have we achieved that? Yes, I think we have achieved that, and I think we probably, in terms of the industry, we certainly have the longest fermentation, and we think that the new spirit we're making from these fermenters is going to deliver something very special in the future. If you take the fermenter around about 56 hours, 56 hours, it's still quite active, they're still bubbling, and that presents challenge to the distillery technician, because it means there's a lot of frothing going on, and you can get bubble over onto the neck of the stills, and then you might get solids on the stills, and you really don't want that. You don't want these solids because of the potential for these to be heated and to decompose. So long fermentation has many benefits. Well, we can make it longer. Does it benefit more? Probably. But in all of this, there is a management of it's really important that you don't get any bacterial infection into the fermenter. So you have to be extremely careful in terms of the management of the hygiene of the system. But sure, you know, we have had some fermentations that last almost 200 hours. We certainly want to stay with the quality. We also actually, in principle, we think that the volume we're producing is just about in balance with the kind of market engagement we have. We understand the personality of the importers and the distributors. We really don't want to be involved with large multiple retail shops. We want to be engaging with clients who are informed, curious, inquisitive, and knowledgeable, and that's the footprint we occupy. If we move from that footprint into competing with some of the bigger companies, I'm not sure that that's the territory that we would be comfortable in. So we think 600, 800,000 litres of alcohol is a well-balanced production level. It means that we can control and monitor the whisky we're producing and filling to wonderful casks. And we see that as a future. We think we're very comfortable with the quality of importer, and equally comfortable with the informed, the knowledgeable consumer that's buying our product. I have to say, from a blender's point of view, I'm fascinated with virgin oak casks. From all over the world, we're looking at casks from the United States, Chinkopin, Appalachian, Guyana, Ozark, all interesting, all different and unique. Of course, we've done a lot of work with Mizunara casks, which are wonderful casks, very expensive, but beautiful delivery. The flavour contribution from Mizunara is, in my opinion, is so fascinating. We're looking at Chinese Mongolian oak, very good casks. And we take from all over Europe. We've got French oak, Limousin, Spanish oak, Portuguese oak, Hungarian, Romanian, Russian, Ukrainian. So we are looking at how all of these, how they evolve, what different, what nuances there are in terms of flavour contributions. And on top of that, with these casks, we look at different levels of toasting, different levels of charring, because these, if we drill into the chemistry, there's so much happening with the heating of the wood. You know, the oak essentially is made up from cellulose, lignins, tannins, and lipids, and the heat process starts the process of decomposition. So the celluloses will give you a variety of sugars. And the decomposition of the tannins and the lignins and the lipids give you spicy type notes. And in between we have things like whisky lactones, which give you these unique coconut notes. So there is so much in the chemistry of what's happening in the preparation of the casks. We actually can take some control of how we manage the cask, how we present the cask to the whisky, and how the whisky will interact with the cask. I think Speyside is special in the sense that it has a unique environment, it's got a unique climate. But I think it's much more important how you manage the actual terroir inside the warehouse. It's important to get a stable environment in the warehouse. So when you fill the warehouse and close the door, what is happening is as the alcohol is evaporating into the atmosphere, it's beginning to act as a refrigerant. It becomes very cool. And so it creates a kind of general ambience for a stable interaction between all of the chemical actions that are going on between the wood and the whisky, and actually in the whisky. That kind of environment is good, it's stable, and it also actually kind of slows it down a bit. So it's really important, you know, I know that there is sometimes, maybe always, there's a debate about how important is age with whisky. Age is critically important in the evolution of top quality whisky. Yes, we actually are already doing that. We engage with a lot of local farmers, and we choose the barley. We try and encourage the barley varietal as well. I think we're currently working with Laureate, but as somebody who's been in the industry a long time, if we could retrace our steps and go back to things like Golden Promise, it would please me enormously. But yes, of course, we interface with the local farmers, and we buy as much local barley and contract with the local maltster to actually malt the barley on our behalf. I personally think, and I've been in the industry now for 50 years, I think we're making whisky today that is very special, and personally I think it's better than we produced 50 years ago, but that's a personal opinion.